Friend, one final note on the book of Job. In verse 15, you may be thinking, this video series is going on as long as the book of Job itself. One more video, I promise. Really interesting little verse just at the end. Part of Job's restoration, he has 3 daughters. They're really beautiful. And in verse 15, it says their father gave them an inheritance among their brothers. Why does Job do that? And why does the text point it out? In this culture, when a woman got married, she was economically, as it were, disinherited from her family of origin. Economically, she's tied to her in-laws. That means that if her husband dies and she's a widow, she's terribly vulnerable economically. She falls between 2 stools. And that's why there's so much about caring for widows in the Old Testament. They had no one else to care for them. Job gives he goes above and beyond. He's extra generous. He gives an inheritance to his daughters. That's really interesting. It's not explicit, but I think Job, he has the hope that Leviathan will be defeated one day, but he knows Leviathan is not defeated yet. And he realizes his daughters may be widows. So he is going against cultural practice to be extra generous to provide for his daughters in case tragedy meets them, and they have their own version of Job chapter 1. Job is going out of his way and going beyond what is strictly required of him in his culture to care for people in practical ways who are suffering. It's a wonderful note to end a reflection on the book of Job on. In the same way, again, in light of the hope of God's restoring work in Job chapter 42 for each one of us, it prompts us to ask, how can we, in practical ways, not like the friends who theorized and blamed and gave head-shaking advice, but in practical ways, help those around us who are suffering? Perhaps it would be appropriate to pray and reflect on that in the coming weeks.